Well, hello there, friends. I'm V from Movies Hunter, and I'm here to tantalize your taste buds with a tantalizing tale of terror, a movie that'll make you scream, "No one lives!" Just like the title. Get ready to hold on to your popcorn, folks, because we're diving into the 2012 horror thriller, No One Lives. In the thrilling opening scene, we witness a young woman named Emma sprinting for her dear life through a dense, creepy forest. But just when she thinks she's about to make a successful getaway, she steps on a trap set by some fiend and gets dragged back into the abyss. Before she is captured, she leaves a cryptic message scrawled in a tree. Emma alive. Cut to a love-struck couple traveling to a mysterious new location, and they stumble upon a random motel, thinking it will be their home for the night. Little do they know they're about to be thrown into a living nightmare. As they settle in and flip on the TV, they learn about the disappearance of Emma, who had been missing for years and snatched by a sadistic captor. Meet Betty, our female lead, with a knife wound in her stomach and the man known only as the driver. He apologizes to Betty for everything and promises her he loves her. Well, look who decided to grace us with their presence. A group of the most charming criminals you'll ever meet, led by none other than the charming Hoag himself. And who do we have here? His lovely brother Ethan, his darling daughter Amber, the sweet girlfriend Tamara, Amber's charming boyfriend Danny, and the crown jewel of the gang, the delightful Flynn. I love Flynn Rider. Because who doesn't love a good old-fashioned home invasion, right? These guys storm into someone's home just to find the owners returning home unexpectedly. But don't worry, Hoag's got this. He is a real smooth talker. That is until Flynn, who apparently doesn't believe in using words, decides to take matters into his own hands and kill the whole family. And because murder is a surefire way to avoid getting caught, the gang decides to just leave all the loot behind and go into hiding. Meanwhile, Betty and the driver decide to take a break and grab a bite, but it wouldn't be a horror movie if things went smoothly, right? Betty's upset with the driver because he is seeing another woman. They head to a bar for a little quality time, only to find a gang of charming criminals also showing up. Apparently, Flynn's little murder spree has put a damper on their plans, and because Flynn just can't help himself, he decides to ruin Betty and the driver's peaceful evening by touching Betty right in front of the driver. Naturally, this leads to the driver getting furious, but before things get too heated, Hoag steps in and saves the day by taking Flynn away, because who wouldn't want to spend an evening surrounded by a bunch of charming criminals? After chowing down on a hearty meal, Betty and the driver hit the road back to the motel. Little did they know, they were about to have a thrilling encounter with Flynn, because apparently he thinks they're loaded. Great job, Flynn. Now the driver's car is in the hands of the gang's hideout, and Hoag's already not thrilled with Flynn's handling of the situation. What's next, you ask? The couple is held hostage at a gas station because apparently Ethan thinks they're made of money. And because the script is lacking excitement, Betty decides to up the ante by slicing her own throat on the knife Ethan was threatening her with. The driver, clearly not happy with Betty's death, breaks out of handcuffs like a boss and tortures Ethan before killing him with ease. Meanwhile, Flynn decides to play Indiana Jones and finds a girl in the trunk of the couple's car. Turns out she's none other than Emma, who was kidnapped years ago. The gang brings her back to the hideout for a little chat, but Emma ruins the fun by telling them to run before the driver comes for her. Emma, bless her soul, thinks she is the hero of this horror movie and warns the gang about the big bad driver who's going to murder them all. The gang, in their infinite wisdom, tries calling Ethan to make sure he is not dead, only to find out later that he actually is. Genius. Danny and Tamara, being the designated gore seekers, set off to see what happened to Ethan. And lo and behold, they arrive at a gas station filled with suspense and bloodshed. Danny, being the klutz he is, trips over a lovely puddle of blood and stumbles upon Ethan's lifeless body. And just for good measure, they also find Betty's head barely attached to her body. But where's the driver, you ask? Oh, he is just hiding somewhere. Meanwhile, Amber decides to play nurse and takes Emma to a room for a wardrobe change. Little does she know she's actually playing host to the infamous Emma Ward, who miraculously survived a massacre that claimed 14 of her friends. And let's not forget, Emma's parents have a cool $2 million waiting for anyone with information on their darling daughter. Danny and Tamara, bless their hearts, thought they were being helpful by bringing Ethan's body back to the shed. Little did they know, the driver was using Ethan's body as a hiding spot like a creepy little squirrel. And of course, dear old Hoag couldn't resist the urge to interrogate Emma about the driver. But Emma, the smart cookie she is, knew this wasn't the time for small talk and tried to make a break for it. But just as she thought she was in the clear, the driver pops up like a bad penny in the bushes. So Hoag and his merry band of misfits decide to hunt down the driver, thinking he's just a regular old criminal. Boy, were they in for a surprise. As soon as they stepped outside, the driver snatches Hoag while poor Danny gets tangled up in some booby traps. Chaos ensues and the group is left scratching their heads trying to figure out their next move. And just when they thought things couldn't get any worse, the driver destroyed their van, trapping them all inside. Hoag, in a moment of desperation, tries to reason with the driver, but the driver, being the sweetheart that he is, doesn't need any help. After learning about the number of people in the house, the driver decides to make Hoag his newest addition to his trophy collection, by dropping him into a meat grinder, of course. Oh joy, what a thrill! Emma recounts all the lovely things the driver did to her, like trying to turn her into his mini-me, and now that Hoag and Ethan are gone, Amber steps up to lead the pack, because nothing says hero like fighting with Tamara over sleeping with Daddy. And then the suspense builds as the driver comes a knocking. Everyone is quivering in fear until Flynn bravely opens the door to find a bag of Hoag's body parts hanging like a festive wreath. But wait, it gets better. Denny, who is bleeding out and basically on death's door, offers to get the group mobile by fixing their old Jeep. Because nothing says, "I've got this," like being on the brink of death. And of course, Emma just loves this plan. After all, they're playing right into the driver's twisted little hands by doing exactly what he wants. But hey, at least they're doing it one by one instead of all at once. Yay? Well, what a thrilling twist of events. Amber and Danny finally managed to get their hands on the magical Jeep, only to have Danny's face sacrificed to the car gods. And of course, Amber had to make a quick getaway, leaving Danny behind to become the newest member of the Car Engine Club. But of course, the driver couldn't resist a little bit of pursuit because he doesn't love a good game of cut and mouse in the woods. And then, in a stunning turn of events, Amber gets a taste of her own medicine and gets skewered by a scythe, because why not? And the others, in their infinite wisdom, decide to just drive away without a second thought for poor Amber. After all, who needs a moral compass when you have a functioning Jeep, right? And of course, Flynn had to go and seal Amber's fate by running her over. Just another day in the life of a horror movie. After so kindly delivering poor Denny to the hospital, Flynn, Tamara, and Emma make their way to a quaint little motel for the night. Because using someone else's credit card to pay for a room is a totally normal thing to do, right? Little do they know, the driver had the same brilliant idea and checked himself in at the same joint. Flynn's brilliance leads to the motel owner, Harris, calling the sheriff. But don't worry, Flynn's got a plan. Why not just kidnap Emma and collect the ransom from her loving parents in Nashville? And hey, while they're at it, why not fulfill Flynn's burning desire to mate with her? But wait, Emma's got other plans. In the bathroom, Tamara hands her a gun so she can take down Flynn once and for all. Meanwhile, the driver arrives to give everyone a good scare. He nearly strangles Tamara to death in the shower. But wait, Flynn's shooting the sheriff? Bam! Finally, Flynn stumbles upon Tamara in the bathroom, but she startles him and bam again, accidentally dead. Emma sees her chance to bolt, but Flynn's hot on her heels. That is until he gets flattened by the driver in a cop car. Emma tries to take down the driver, but her trusty gun has ran out of ammo. So she scurries into a nearby scrapyard because he doesn't love a good hide and seek in a place filled with rusted metal and God knows what else. But the driver is relentless and he finds Emma in no time. A confrontational standoff ensues, and in a moment of pure badassery, Emma beats the driver with a pipe. Just as Flynn shows up with a gun, the driver shoves Emma aside and takes a shotgun blast to the chest. But of course, because this is a horror movie, the driver is impervious to death and sports a trusty Kevlar vest. And so begins the epic showdown between the two. Flynn grabs his weapon, ready to end the driver once and for all. But Emma swoops in and knocks him out like the true hero she is. Now it is her turn to face the driver. She declares that she wants to be the one to end him, raises her shotgun and pulls the trigger. But wait, what's this? The shotgun fails to fire because Emma forgot to pump in a new shell. Classic horror movie mistake. Oh, the driver is just so impressed by her bravery, he can't help but cut out the tracking device he conveniently placed inside her stomach. Because what's scarier than a serial killer knowing your every move? Nothing, that's what. And of course, the driver just has to make sure to eliminate anyone who knows this precious little secret. So goodbye, Flynn and Harris. We barely knew, yeah. The next day, the driver dons a white coat and poses as a doctor because apparently killing with a clipboard is the new cool way to do things. And let's not forget our dear Danny, who thought a hospital was a safe haven. How cute. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, the driver spots our leading lady, Emma, being wheeled in by a stretcher. But don't worry, folks, he just can't resist the urge to touch her arm before departing. How sweet. But wait, what's this? Emma has the same little wound mark as Betty. Could it be that the driver has been playing the ultimate game of replace and repeat all along? Betty was never actually in love with him. She was just another pawn in his twisted little game. And now he is onto his next victim, Emma. But who knows, maybe he'll get bored with her too and go on to the next and the next and the next and the next. And so, my lads, this was the story of No One Lives. See you in the next hunt. Follow me for more.